Hi, I'm Ken Hill, professor of theater at Ripon College, and also this year the acting chair of the music department. And tonight's performance combines music and theater. The first part is Spoon River by Percy Granger, performed by the Symphonic Wind Ensemble. And the second part is my own adaptation of Edgar Lee Masters' Spoon River Anthology. I tried to find a play that worked outside, where the students could interact with each other without having to wear masks. And also, it's a one that takes place in a rural Midwestern graveyard. And if there's any place that's rural and Midwestern, it's Ripon College. So I hope you enjoy the show tonight and enjoy being here at Ripon College, even though you have to do it over a camera.
Welcome to Spoon River, Kenneth Hill's new adaptation of the work of Edgar Lee Masters. The play is set in 1916 in a rural Midwestern graveyard where former citizens talk of their lives and deaths. The play runs approximately 1 hour and is played without intermission. Please observe social distancing and thank you for supporting live theater.
All of the riverboat gamblers are losing their shirts. And all of the brave Union soldier boys sleep in the dirt. But you know, and I know, There never was reason to hurt. When all of our lives were entwined to begin with, here in Spoon River.
All of the calico dresses, the gingham and lace are up in the attic with grandfather's Derringer case. There's words whispered down in the parlor, a shadowy face. The morning is heavy with one more beginning here in Spoon River.
Come to the dance, Mary Perkins. I like you right well.
All of the riverboats gamblers are losing their
The union's preserved. If you listen, you'll hear all the bells.
All of the brave Union soldier boys sleep in the
There must be a heaven. God knows that I've seen only hell. My rig is outside, coming right through the morning here in Spoon River. All of the riverboat gamblers are losing their shirts. And all of the brave Union soldier boys sleep in the dirt. But you know, and I know, there never was reason to hurt. When all of our lives were entwined to begin with, here in Spoon River.
Where are Elmer, Herman,
Bert,
Tom,
and Charlie,
the weak of will, the strong of arm,
the clown,
the boozer,
the fighter,
all are sleeping on the hill.
one passed away in a fever, one was burned in a mine,
one was killed in a brawl,
One died in a jail.
one fell from a bridge, toiling for children and wife.
All are sleeping, sleeping, sleeping on the hill.
Where are Ella, Kate, Mag, Lizzie, and Edith? The tender hearts, the simple soul, the loud, the proud, the happy one. All are sleeping on the hill. One died in shameful childbirth. One of a thwarted love.
One at the hands of a brute in a brothel.
One of a broken pride in search for heart's desire. One afterlife in faraway London and Paris was brought to her little space by Ella and Kate and Meg. All are sleeping, sleeping, sleeping on the hill.
where are Uncle Isaac and Aunt Emily?
and old Townie Kincaid and Strenya Houghton, and Major Walker, who had talked with venerable men of the Revolution.
All are sleeping on the hill.
They brought them dead sons from the war.
And daughters whom life had crushed, and their children fatherless crying. All are sleeping, sleeping, sleeping on the hill.
Where is old Fiddler Jones, who played with life all his 90 years?
Braving the sleet with bared head, drinking, dancing, thinking neither of wife, nor kin, nor gold, nor love, nor heaven.
Lo, he babbles of the fish fries of long ago, of the horse races of long ago at Clary's Grove,
Of what Abe Lincoln said one time at Springfield.
Here lies Chase Henry. In life I was the town drunkard. When I died, the priest denied me burial in holy ground, the which rebounded to my good fortune. For the Protestants bought this lot and buried my body here close to the grave of the banker Nicholas and of his wife Priscilla. Take note, ye prudent and pious souls, of the cross currents in life which bring honor to the dead who lived in shame.
Here lies Judge Summers. How does it happen? Tell me, that I, who was most venerable of lawyers, who knew Blackstone and Coke almost by heart, who made the greatest speech the courthouse ever heard, and wrote a brief that won the praise of Justice Breese, how does it happen, tell me, that I lie here, unmarked, forgotten, while Chase Henry, the town drunkard, has a marble block topped by an urn, wherein nature, in a mood ironical, has sown a flowering weed.
Here lies Benjamin Pantier. Together in this grave lie Benjamin Pantier, attorney at law, and Tig, his dog, constant companion, solace, and friend. Down the gray road, friends, children, men and women passing one by one out of life left me till I was alone with Tig for partner, bedfellow, comrade and drink. In the morning of life, I knew aspiration and saw glory. And then she, who survives me, snared my soul with a snare which bled me to death, till I, once strong of will, lay broken, indifferent, living with Tig in her room back of a dingy office. Under my jawbone to snuggle the bony nose of Tig. Our story is lost in silence. Go by, mad world.
Here lies
Mrs. Benjamin Pantier. I know, he told that I snared his soul with a snare which bled him
him to death, and all the men loved him, and most of the women pitied him.
But suppose
You are really a lady, and have delicate tastes,
and loathe the
smell of whiskey and onions, and the rhythm of
Wordsworth's ode runs in your ears while he goes about, morning till night, repeating bits of that common
thing. Oh, why should the spirit of mortal be proud? And then suppose you are a woman well endowed, and the only man in which the law and morality permits you to have
marital relation is the very man which fills you with disgust. Every time you think of it, while you think of it, every time you see him. That's
why
why
I drove him off from home to live with his dog in a dingy room back of his office.
Here lies Trainer the druggist. Only the chemist can tell, and not always the chemist, what will result in compounding fluids and solids. And who can tell how men and women will interact on each other, or what children will result? There were Benjamin Pantier and his wife, good in themselves but evil towards each other. He oxygen, she hydrogen, and their son, a devastating fire. I, Trainer the druggist, a miser of chemicals, killed while making an experiment, lived unwedded. Here lies Reuben Pantier. Well, Emily Sparks, your prayers were not wasted. Your love was not all in vain. I owe whatever I was in life to your hope that would not give me up, to your love that saw me still as good. Dear Emily Sparks, let me tell you the story. I passed the effect of my father and mother. The milliner's daughter made me trouble, and out I went into the world, where I passed through every peril known of wine and women and joy of life. One night, in a room in the Rue de Rivioli, I was drinking wine with a black-eyed coquette. And the tears swam into my eyes. She thought they were amorous tears and smiled for thought of her conquest over me. But my soul was 3,000 miles away in the days when you taught me in Spoon River. And just because you no more could love me, nor pray for me, nor write me letters, the eternal silence of you spoke instead. The black-eyed coquette took the tears for hers, as well as the deceiving kisses I gave her. Somehow, from that hour, I had a new vision. Dear Emily Sparks!
Here lies Emily Sparks. Where is my boy? My boy, in what far part of the world? The boy I loved best of all in the school. I, the teacher, the old maid, the virgin heart who made them all my children. Did I know my boy aright, thinking of him as a spirit aflame, active, ever aspiring? Oh boy, boy for whom I prayed and prayed in many a watchful hour at night, do you remember the letter I wrote you of the beautiful love of Christ? And whether you ever took it or not, my boy, work for your soul's sake, that all the clay of you, all of the dross of you may yield to the fire of you, till the fire is nothing but light. Nothing but light.
Here lies A.D. Blood. If you in the village think that my work was a good one, who closed the saloons and stopped all playing at cards and hauled old Daisy Fraser before Justice Arnett in many a crusade to purge the people of sin, why do you let the milliner's daughter Dora and the worthless son of Benjamin Pantier nightly make my grave their unholy pillow?
Here lies Dora Williams. When Reuben Pantier ran away and threw me, I went to Springfield. There I met a lush whose father, just deceased, left him a fortune. He married me when drunk. My life was wretched. A year passed, and one day they found him dead. That made me rich. I moved on to Chicago after time at Tyler Roundtree. Villain. I moved on to New York. A gray-haired magnate went mad about me, so another fortune. He died one night right in my arms, you know. I saw his purple face for years thereafter. There was almost a scandal. I moved on, this time to Paris. I was now a woman, insidious, subtle, versed in the world, and rich. My sweet apartment near the Champs-Élysées became a center for all sorts of people. Musicians, poets, dandies, artists, nobles, where we spoke French and German, Italian, English. I wed Count Navigato, native of Genoa. We went to Rome. He poisoned me, I think. Now in the Campo Santo overlooking the sea where young Columbus dreamed new worlds, see what they chiseled. Contessa Navigato, implora eterna quiate.
Here lies Mrs. Williams. I was the milliner, talked about, lied about, mother of Dora, whose strange disappearance was charged to her rearing. My eye, quick to beauty, saw much beyond ribbons and buckles and feathers and leghorns and felts to set off sweet faces and dark hair and gold. One thing I will tell you, and one I will ask. The stealers of husbands wear powder and trinkets and fashionable hats. Wives, wear them yourselves. Hats may make divorces. They also prevent them. Well now, let me ask you,
If all of the children born here in Spoon River had been reared by the county somewhere on a farm, and the fathers and mothers were given their freedom to live and enjoy, change mates if they wished, do you think that Spoon River had been any the worse?
Here lies William.
And Emily.
There is something about death, like love itself.
If with someone with whom you have known passion and the glow of youthful life.
You also, after years of life together, feel the sinking of the fire and thus fade away together.
Gradually, faintly, delicately, as it were in each other's arms.
Passing from the familiar room. That is a power of unison between souls like love itself.
Here lies Daisy Fraser. Did you ever hear of Editor Whedon giving to the public treasury any of the money he received for supporting candidates for office? Or for writing up the canning factory to get the people to invest? Or for suppressing the facts about the bank when it was rotten and ready to break? Did you ever hear of the circuit judge helping anyone except the Q Railroad or the bankers? Or did Reverend Pete or Reverend Sibley give any part of their salary earned by keeping still or speaking out as the leaders wished them to do to the building of the waterworks? But I, Daisy Fraser, who always walked along the street through rows of nods and smiles and coughs and words such as, "There she goes," never was taken before Justice Arnett without contributing $10 and costs to the school fund of Spoon River.
Here lies Rosie Roberts. I was sick. But more than that, I was mad at the crooked police and the crooked game of life. So I wrote to the chief of police at Peoria. I am here in my girlhood home in Spoon River, gradually wasting away. But come and take me. I killed the son of the merchant prince in Madame Lou's, and the papers that said that he killed himself in his home while cleaning a hunting gun lied like the devil to hush up scandal for the bribe of advertising. In my room, I shot him at Madame Lou's because he knocked me down when I said that, in spite of all the money he had, I'd see my lover that night.
Here lies Russian Sonia. I, born in Weimar, of a mother who is French and a German father, a muscle-learned professor. Orphaned at 14 years, became a dancer known as Russian Sonia, all up and down the boulevards of Paris. Mistress at times of sundry dukes and counts, and later of poor artists and poets. At 40 years past, I sailed New York and met old Patrick Hummer on the boat. Red-faced and hale-boat, turned his 60th year, returning after having sold a shipload of cattle in the German city Hamburg. He brought me to Spoon River, and we lived there for 20 years. They thought we were married. This oak tree near me is the favorite haunt of blue jays, chittering all day. And why not? For my very dust is laughing, for thinking of the humorous thing called life.
Here lies Barney Hainesfeather. If the exclusion train in Peoria had just been wrecked, I might have escaped with my life. Certainly I should have escaped this place. But, as it was Boyd as well, they mistook me for John Allen, who was sent to the Hebrew Cemetery at Chicago, and John for me. So, I lie here. It was bad enough to run a clothing store in this town, but to be buried here? Oi!
Some bright morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to that home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll this life have gone, I'll fly away. Like a bird from prison bars I've flown, I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to a land where joy shall never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. In the morning when I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away.
Here lies Roscoe Percopile. She loved me. Oh, how she loved me. I never had a chance to escape from the day she first saw me. But then after we were married, I thought she might prove her mortality and let me out, or she might divorce me. But few die, none resign. Then I ran away and was gone a year on a lark, but she never complained. She said all would be well, that I would return, and I did return. I told her that while taking a row in a boat, I had been captured by pirates on Lake Michigan and kept in chains, so I could not write her. She cried and kissed me and said it was cruel, outrageous, inhuman. I then concluded that our marriage was a divine dispensation and could not be dissolved except by death. I was right.
Here lies Mrs. Percopile. He ran away and was gone for a year. When he returned, he told me the silly story of being kidnapped by pirates on Lake Michigan and being kept in chains so that he could not write me. I pretended to believe it, though I knew very well what he was doing, and that he met the milliner, Mrs. Williams, now and then when she went to the city to buy goods, as she said. But a promise is a promise, and marriage is marriage. And out of respect for my own character, I refuse to be drawn into a divorce by the scheme of a husband who had merely grown tired of his marital vow and duty.
Here lies Minerva Jones. I am Minerva, the village poetess. Hooted at, jeered at by the yahoos of the street for my heavy body, cockeye, and rolling walk. And all the more when Butch Weldy captured me after a brutal hunt. He left me to my fate with Dr. Myers, and I sank into death, growing numb from the feet up like one stepping deeper and deeper into a stream of ice. Will someone go to the village newspaper and gather into a book the verses I wrote? I thirsted so for love. I hungered so for life.
Here lies Indignation Jones. You would not believe, would you, that I came from good Welsh stock, and of more direct lineage than the New Englanders and Virginians of Spoon River. You would not believe that I had been to school and read some books. You saw me only as a run-down man with matted hair and beard and ragged clothes. Sometimes a man's life turns into a cancer, from being bruised and continuously bruised, and swells into a purplish mass like growths on stalks of corn. Here was I, a carpenter, mired in the bog of life, into which I walked thinking it was a meadow, with a slattern for a wife and poor Minerva, my daughter, whom you tormented and drove to death. So I crept like a snail through the days of my life. No more you hear my footsteps in the morning, resounding on the hollow sidewalk, going to the grocery store for a little cornmeal and a nickel's worth of bacon.
Here lies Dr. Myers. No other man, unless it was Doc Hill, did more for the people of this town than I. And all the halt, the weak, the improvident, and those who could not pay flocked to me. I was good-hearted, easy Dr. Myers. I was healthy, happy, in comfortable fortune, blessed with a congenial mate. My children all raised, wedded, doing well in the world. And then one night, Minerva, the poetess, came to me in her trouble, crying. I tried to help her out. She died. They indicted me. The newspapers disgraced me. My wife perished of a broken heart, and pneumonia finished me.
Here lies Mrs. Myers. He protested all his life. The newspapers lied about him villainously, that he was not at fault for Minerva's fall, but only tried to help her. Poor soul, so sunk in sin he could not see that even trying to help her, as he called it, he had broken the law, human and divine. Passers-by, an ancient admonition to you. Should your ways be ways of pleasantness, and all your pathways peace, love God and keep his commandments.
Here lies Butch Weldy. After I got religion and steadied down, they gave me a job in the cannon works. And every morning I had to fill the tanks in the yard with gasoline to fill the blowfires in the sheds to heat the soldering irons. And I mounted a rickety ladder to do it, carrying buckets full of the stuff. One morning, as I stood there pouring, the air grew still and seemed to heave. And I shot up as the tank exploded, and down I came with both legs broken and my eyes burnt crisp as a couple of eggs. For someone left a blow flare going and something sucked the flame in the tank. The circuit judge said whoever did it was a fellow servant of mine, and so old road sudden didn't have to pay me. And I sat on the witness stand as blind as Jack the Fiddler, saying over and over, I didn't know him at all.
Here lies Widow McFarland. I was the Widow McFarland, weaver of carpets for all the village, and I pity you still at the loom of life. You who are singing to this shuttle and lovingly watching the work of your hands. If you reach the day of hate, of terrible truth. For the cloth of life is woven, you know, to a pattern hidden under the loom, a pattern you never see. And you weave high-hearted, singing, and you guard the threads of love and friendship for the noble figures in gold and purple. For long after other eyes can see, you have woven a moon-white strip of cloth. You laugh in your strength, for hope overlies it, and willingly watching the works and shapes of love and beauty. The loom stops short. The pattern runs out. You're alone in the room. You have woven a shroud, and hate of it lace you in it.
Here lies Elsa Wertmann. I was a peasant girl from Germany, blue-eyed, rosy, happy, and strong. And the first place I worked was at Thomas Green's. On a summer's day when she was away, he stole into the kitchen and took me right in his arms and kissed me on my throat, I turning my head. Then neither of us seemed to know what happened, and I cried for what would become of me, and cried as my secret began to show. One day, Mrs. Green said that she understood and would make no trouble for me, and being childless, would adopt it. He had given her a farm to be still. So she hid in the house and sent out rumors as if it were going to happen to her. And all went well, and the child was born. They were so kind to me. But At political rallies, when sitters-by thought I was crying at the eloquence of Hamilton Green, that was not it. No, I wanted to say, that's my son. That's my son.
Here lies Hamilton Green. I was the only child of Francis Harris of Virginia and Thomas Green of Kentucky, of honorable and valiant blood both. To them, I owe all that I became: judge, member of Congress, leader in the state. From my mother, I inherited vivacity, fancy, language. From my father, will, judgment, logic. All honor to them for what service I was to the people.
Here lies Flossie Cabanis. From Bindle's Opera House in the Village to Broadway is a great step, but I tried to take it. My ambition fired when 16 years of age, seeing East Lynne played here in the Village by Ralph Barrett, the coming romantic actor who enthralled my soul. True, I trailed back home a broken failure when Ralph disappeared in New York, leaving me alone in the city. But life broke him also. In all this place of silence, there are no kindred spirits. How I wish Duza could stand amid the pathos of the quiet fields and read these words.
Here lies Margaret Fuller Slack. I would have been as great as George Eliot, but for an untoward fate. For look at the photograph of me made by Penniwit. Chin resting in hand and deep-set eyes. Gray, too, and far-searching. But there was the old problem. Should it be celibacy, matrimony, or unchastity? And John Slack, the rich druggist, wooed me, luring me with the promise of leisure for my novel. And I married him, giving birth to 8 children, and had no time to write. It was all over for me anyway when I ran the needle in my hand while washing the baby's things and died from lockjaw, an ironical death. Hear me, ambitious souls. Sex is the curse of life.
Here lies Hortense Robbins. My name used to be in the papers daily, as having dined somewhere, or traveled somewhere, or rented a house in Paris where I entertained the nobility. I was forever eating, traveling, or taking the cure at Baden-Baden. Now I am here to do honor to Spoon River, here beside the family whence I sprang. No one cares now where I dined, or traveled, or who I entertained, or how often I took the cure at Baden-Baden.
Here lies Alfonso Churchill. They laughed at me as Professor Moon, as a boy in Spoon River, born with the thirst of knowing about the stars. They jeered when I spoke of the lunar mountains and the thrilling heat and cold, and the ebon valleys by silver peaks and Spica quadrillions of miles away, and the littleness of man. Well, now that my grave is honored, friends, let it not be because I taught the lore of the stars in Knox College, but rather for this, that through the stars I preach the greatness of man, and whom is nonetheless a part of the scheme of things for the distance of Spica or spiral nebula, nor any less a part of the question of what the drama means.
Here lies Willie Metcalf. They used to call me Dr. Myers because they said I looked like him. And he was my father, according to Jack McGuire. I lived in the livery stable, sleeping on the floor side by side with Roger Bauman's bulldog, or sometimes in a stall. I could crawl between the legs of the wildest horses without getting kicked. We knew each other. On spring days, I tramped through the country to get the feeling which sometimes I lost, that I was not a separate thing from the earth. I used to lose myself, as if in sleep, by lying with eyes half open in the woods. Sometimes I talked with animals, even toads and snakes, anything that had an eye to look into. Once I saw a stone in the sunshine, trying to turn it to jelly. In April days in this cemetery, the dead people gathered all around me and grew still, like a congregation in silent prayer. I never knew whether I was a part of the earth with flowers growing in me or whether I walked. Now I know.
Here lies Griffey the Cooper. The Cooper should know about tubs, but I learned about life as well. And you who loiter around these graves think you know life. You think your eye sweeps about a wide horizon. Perhaps. In truth, you are only looking around the interior of your tub. You cannot bring yourself to its rim and at the same time see the outer world of things, and at the same time see yourself. You are submerged in the tub of yourself. Taboos and rules and appearances are the staves of your tub. Break them and dispel the witchcraft of thinking that your tub is life and that you know life.
Here lies Lucinda Matlock. I went to the dances in Chandlerville and played Snap Out at Winchester. One time, we changed partners, driving home in the moonlights of middle June. And then I found Davis. We were married and lived together for 70 years, working, enjoying, raising the 12 children, 8 of whom we lost ere I had reached the age of 60. I spun, I wove, I kept the garden, I nursed the sick, I made the house, and for holiday, rambled o'er the fields where sang the larks, and by Spoon River, gathering many a shell and a flower and medicinal weed, shouting to the wooded hills, singing to the green valleys. By 96, I had lived enough, that is all, and passed to a sweet repose. What is this I hear of sorrow and weariness, anger, discontent, and drooping hopes? Degenerate sons and daughters, life is too strong for you. It takes life to love life.
Definitely care about you, your family's emotions and feelings when the loved one passes away. I like to give a little point.
Let us pause in life's pleasures and count its many tears, while we all sup sorrow with the poor. There's a song that will linger forever in our ears. Oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times, come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times, come again no more.
While we seek mirth and beauty and music light and gay, their frail forms fading at the door. Though their voices are silent, their fleeting words will say, oh, hard times come again no more.
'Tis the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times, come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more. There's a pale, drooping maiden who toils her life away with a worn heart whose better days are o'er. Though her voice it would be merry, 'tis sighing all the day. Oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times, come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times, come again no more.
Here lies Anarclute. Over and over they used to ask me while buying the wine or the beer. In Peoria first, and later in Chicago, Denver, Frisco, New York, wherever I lived, how I happened to lead the life. And what was the start of it? Well, I told them of a silk dress and a promise of marriage from a rich man. It was Lucius Atherton. But that was not really it at all. Suppose a boy steals an apple from the tray at the grocery store and they all begin to call him a thief. The editor, minister, judge, and all the people, a thief, a thief, a thief. Wherever he goes, and he can't get work, and he can't get bread without stealing it. Why? The boy will steal. It's the way the people regard the theft of the apple that makes the boy what he is.
Here lies Lucius Atherton. When my mustache curled, and my hair was black, and I wore tight trousers and a diamond stud, I was an excellent knave of hearts and took many a trick. But when the gray hairs began to appear, lo, a new generation of girls laughed at me, not fearing me. And I had no more exciting adventures wherein I was all but shot for a heartless devil, but only drabby affairs, warmed over affairs of other days and other men. And time went on until I lived at Mayor's restaurant partaking of short orders. A gray, untidy, toothless, discarded rural Don Juan. There is a mighty shade here who sings of one named Beatrice. And I see now that the force that made him great drove me to the dregs of life.
Here lies Homer Clapp. Often, Anarclute at the gate refused me the parting kiss.
Saying we should be engaged before that.
And
With just the distant clasp of a hand, she bade me goodnight as I brought her home from the skating
rink or the revival. No sooner had my departing footsteps
died away than
Lucius Atherton, so I learned when
Anna went to Peoria, stole in at her window.
took her riding behind his spanking team of bays into the country. The shock of it made me settle down, and I put all the money I got from my father's estate into the canning factory to get the job of head accountant, and lost it all.
And then I knew I was one of life's
Fools, whom only death would choose an equal of other men, making me feel like a man.
Here lies Sarah Brown. Maurice, weep not. I am not here under this pine tree. The balmy air of spring whispers the sweet grass. Stars sparkle, the whippoorwill calls. But thou grievest, while my soul lies rapturous in the blessed nirvana of eternal light. Go to the good heart that is my husband, who broods upon what he calls our guilty love, and tell him that my love for him, no less than my love for you, wrought out my destiny. That through the flesh I won spirit, and through the spirit, peace. There is no marriage in heaven, but there is love.
Here lies Mrs. Kessler. Mr. Kessler, you know, was in the army, and he drew $6 a month as a pension and stood on the corner talking politics or sat at home reading Grant's memoirs. And I supported the family by washing, learning the secrets of all the people from their curtains, counterpanes, shirts, and skirts. For things that are new grow old at length. They're replaced with better or none at all. People are prospering or falling back. And rents and patches widen with time. No thread or needle can paste decay. And there are stains that baffle soap. And there are colors that run in spite of you, blamed though you are for spoiling a dress. Handkerchiefs, napery have their secrets. The laundress, life knows all about it. And I, who went to all the funerals held in Spoon River, swear I never saw a dead face without thinking it looked like something washed and ironed.
Here lies Nolt Hoheimer. I was the first fruits of the Battle of Missionary Ridge. When I felt the bullet enter my heart, I wished I had stayed at home and gone to jail for stealing the hogs at Crow Trennery instead of running away and joining the army. Rather 1,000 times the county jail than to lie under this marble figure with wings and this granite pedestal bearing the words Pro Patria. What do they mean anyway?
Here lies Lydia Puckins. Nolt Hoheimer ran away to the war the day before Colonel Trennery swore out a warrant through Justice Arnett for stealing hogs. But that's not the reason he turned a soldier. He caught me running with Lucius Atherton. We quarreled, and I told him never again to cross my path. Then he stole the hogs and went to war. Back of every soldier is a woman. Here lies Anne Rutledge. Out of me, unworthy and unknown, the vibrations of deathless music, with malice toward none, with charity for all. Out of me, forgiveness of millions toward millions, and the beneficent face of a nation shining with justice and truth. I am Anne Rutledge, who sleep beneath these weeds, beloved in life of Abraham Lincoln, wedded to him not through union, but through separation. Bloom forever, O Republic, from the dust of my bosom.
Here lies Hannah Armstrong. I wrote him a letter for old time's sake to discharge my sick boy from the army. But maybe he couldn't read it. Then I went to town and had James Garber, who wrote beautifully, write him a letter. But maybe that got lost in the mail. So I traveled all the way to Washington, and I was more than an hour from finding the White House. And when I found it, they turned me away, hiding their smiles. Then I thought, oh well, he ain't the same as when I boarded him, and he and my husband worked together, and all of us called him Abe there in Menard. Well, as a last attempt, I turned to the guard and said, please say it's old Aunt Hannah Armstrong from Illinois come to see her sick boy in the army. Well, just in a moment they let me in. When he saw me, he broke into a laugh and dropped his business as president and wrote in his own hand Doug's discharge, talking the while of the early days and telling stories.
Here lies William Good. To all in the village, I seemed no doubt to go this way and that way aimlessly. But here by the river, you can see at twilight the soft winged bats fly zigzag here and there. They must fly so to catch their food. And if you ever lost your way at night in the deep wood near Miller's Ford, dodged this way and now that, wherever the light of the Milky Way shone through, trying to find the path, you should understand. I sought the way with earnest zeal, and all my wanderings were wanderings in the quest.
Here lies Faith Matheny. At first you will know not what they mean. You may never know, and we may never tell you. These sudden flashes in your soul like lightning on snowy clouds at midnight when the moon is full. They come in solitude. Or perhaps you sit with your friend and all at once a silence falls on speech and his eyes without a flicker glow at you. You two have seen the secret together. He sees it in you and you in him. And there you sit, thrilling lest the mystery stand before you and strike you dead with a splendor like the sun's. Be brave, all souls who have such visions. As your body's alive, as mine is dead. You're catching a little whiff of the ether reserved for God Himself.
Here lies Edmund Pollard. I would I had thrust my hands of flesh into the disk flowers, bee infested, into the mirror-like core of fire of the light of life, the sun of the light. For what are anthers worth? O petals, O halo rays? Mockeries, shadows of the heart of the flower, the central flame. All is yours, young passerby. Enter the banquet room with the thought. Don't sidle in as if you were doubtful whether you're welcome. The feast is yours. Nor take but a little, refusing more with a bashful thank you when you're hungry. Is your soul alive? Then let it feed. Leave no balconies where you can climb, no milk-white bosoms where you can rest, no golden heads with pillows to share, no wine cups while the wine is sweet, no ecstasies of body or soul. You will die, no doubt, but die while living, in depths of azure, wrapped in maiden, kissing the queen bee, life.
Here lies Fiddler Jones. The earth keeps some vibration going there in your heart, and that is you. And if the people find that you can fiddle, why, fiddle you must for all your life. What do you hear? A harvest of clover? A meadow to walk through to the river. The wind's in the corn. You rub your hands hereafter ready for cattle. Or you hear the rustle of skirts like the girls dancing at Little Grove. To Cooney Potter, a pillar of dust or whirling leaves meant ruinous drought. They looked to me like Redhead Sammy, stepping it off to Tourlure. How could I till my 40 acres, not to speak of getting more, with a medley of horns, bassoons, and piccolos stirred in my brain by crows and robins and the creak of a windmill? Only these? I ended up with 40 acres. I ended up with a broken fiddle, and a broken laugh, and 1,000 memories, and not a single regret.